shows Find Your Own Voice, Lead from Within. With me today, I have Amanda Murray. Amanda, please introduce yourself. And we've got Nick and Grant. Introduce yourself, Amanda, then pass it to Nick
Uh,
and Grant.
Good morning from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. My name is Amanda Cottrell. I am a teacher, an author, and an illustrator, and I'm really excited to talk about today's talk because I actually have a master's in education technology. So AI is something that's really interesting for me as an educator, because I think that we really need to find ways to get some of this into our school systems. So Grant, what about you?
Thank you very much, Amanda. My name is Grant Morrell. I'm an international speaker, coach, trainer, and an international best-selling author. Over the last 19 years, myself and my international team have helped thousands of entrepreneurs, business owners, and organisations across 15 countries, helping to increase their profits by up to 200% in just a few short months by working with a team, the systems, their mindset, and their strategy. And now I have a vision, a global vision to take 1 million leaders to help them live a life without limits by helping them to clearly communicate their message with the world. That's who I am. That's what I'm here for. That's what I do. Over to you, Nick.
My name is Nick Motichka, and I am located in Alberta, which is a province in Canada, obviously. And I am a now former police officer. I just resigned from policing in April of this year after 17 years in policing. And now that has freed me up to go all in on my passion, which is fashion. And I'm starting my own fashion brand, which is made here locally in Canada and with sustainable fabrics, and is going to be awesome. Thank you.
Your beauty,
Grant, Amanda, and Nick. So our topic today is the artificial intelligence. So we're talking about artificial intelligence. By the way, who chose the topic? Was it Grant?
Yes.
Okay, so how it can be, how is undoubtedly intelligent, yet how it can be applied. So we're just going to talk about it, but I would like to ask Grant to explain to our audience why you chose this topic, because it's a very, very interesting topic, and people will get creative if they do watch it. Over to you, Grant.
Thank you. Yeah, indeed. So how it came about was we were talking amongst ourselves, and I just sort of said something about it. And I remember you guys said, "Whoa, that would make a great subject. That would make a great subject." So we paused it right there, and then we actually just worked on it because it's something that's been in my mind for a while, and perhaps that's how it just came out in conversation. Because artificial intelligence is, undoubtedly intelligent, and it's going to solve so many problems in the world. It can give much accurate answers. Once it's developed properly, can give much more accurate answers, can save time, can save economy, can save money. So it's a brilliant, brilliant solution. Or is it? This is my point. It's right. It takes me back to the days where text messaging, SMS, short text messaging, it came from the military. The idea of not using it to be grammatically correct is acceptable because that's what it was made for. It wasn't meant to be a way to converse properly. It's short text message, so abbreviations are okay. You get a great idea, you give it to people. What do they do with it? They abuse it. Emails was going to save us so much time. We was going to have so much more leisure time because we didn't have to post letters. There wasn't huge delays. Fees would go down. It would be a great solution, and it could have been. What did we do? We used that spare time to send more emails. Dumb. Intelligent system, people use it in a dumb way. So there's the problem. What's the weak link in all of this? Is it the system or is it the people using it? Even artificial intelligence is made by humans, obviously. It learns and gets its intelligence from people. In the world of aviation, I love aviation. Aeroplanes have got faster, systems have got smarter. It's great. The weak link is the human being. We haven't improved, and we're not likely to anytime soon. So everything around us is getting better, but how we choose to use these things, we're not getting smarter. Therein lies the problem. That's the question I want to pose today. Artificial intelligence. Is it a great answer, or is it the beginning of a big problem? What do you think, guys? What do you think? Who wants to jump in?
What do you think, Amanda?
Oh, well, I think it really has, that's a really loaded question. Because it has like potential to do good, but it also has potential to be really bad. I just was looking at this book. I actually asked the author to come on today. Her name is Dr. Katerina Thomas, and she's out of the UK. And I actually am friends with her. And she, unfortunately, she was like, "Yes, I'll come on." And then she's like, "Oh no, I have something in another town, like at 1 o'clock, so I can't come that day." But I said maybe she could come in another day and talk with us, and we could talk about something similar to this topic. But I just was underlining a couple quotes from here, and it said, like, in the 1950s, there's actually Alan Turing was pioneering some of this stuff, and he found out in his experiments that no robot could ever pass his test because it was a test to determine if something was human or not human. And all of the humans could eventually figure out that the test, like that the one thing was not human, but the robots never could. And so I always think about that when I think about movies and stuff, like when the robots end up taking over because they don't realize that they're actually affecting humans. Because they don't have that empathy piece. Right. And so I always think about that when I think about like the AI stuff, is like, do we have that empathy piece? And then it talked about in 2016, Georgia Tech University pioneered the use of artificial intelligence as a teaching assistant, which I think can potentially have some really good things. But today, especially in the last 2 years, teachers have had to use technology, but not necessarily artificial intelligence in their classrooms. And if anything, from what we've learned from being online and isolated, is that doesn't work for us as human beings. We need human connection. Kids need to be in the classroom. They need to be with other kids, and classrooms can look very differently. I have a hard time with the structure of the traditional system and the structure of the institution of education, but I definitely think like there's so many options for how schooling can look, but kids need to interact with other kids, and adults need to interact with other adults. Otherwise, they are missing key skills that artificial intelligence just can't do for us. It can do many things, but it cannot replace that empathy piece. It cannot replace that human connection. And as much as you'd like to be like, oh, you could just make this robotic like partner for you. Like I've seen things on that where they're like essentially making these robots to like help people who are lonely. And I'm like, why don't we just get people to go hang out with them? Like you're spending how much money making a robot to go and live with people that are lonely? Like we're something seriously wrong with us if that's what we're wasting our money on. Like, why are we spending that money on helping people? It just blows my mind. It really blows my mind.
You know, Nick? Amanda, that's made me laugh because many years ago I heard an expression, and I was talking about laser beams when they first discovered, stumbled upon, whatever, laser beams. And they said, when they first got them, they said, this is really cool. This is really great. It's fine. What do we do with it? Because they said it was a solution to a problem that didn't exist. Of course, we found ways to use them very intelligently now. But I get exactly what you mean. They're making robots to stop people from being lonely, but surely we're missing the point. There's not a shortage of people in most cases, you know? And there's easier ways to do it. Kind of reminds me of the idea of when NASA spent, I can't remember how much money, allegedly. I'm not sure. This is common folklore, and I'm not sure if it's actually true, but the analogy is this: that NASA spent so many billions trying to work out a pen that could work upside down when it went into space. The Russians just used as a pencil.
Yeah, I remember that too, where there was like a huge like meeting and all this money that they were going to spend, and then one person just wrote down, "How about we just use a pencil?"
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I think that's a great point. And what about yourself, Nick? Any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what both of you have said and some of the implications of it. And Grant specifically with the weak link being us, and I totally agree with that and how dangerous it can become in the wrong hands. And I'm talking specifically about AI technology. And if it were to be only in the hands of a few, how dangerous that could be for humans at large. And I just, especially after the last couple of years and seeing human nature kind of at its worst in a lot of ways, I feel really uncomfortable basically with AI moving forward at the pace that it is, just because of some of those implications and because humans themselves are so flawed. And I just feel like there's bad actors out there that could so easily use it for bad. And that would be a huge, it's just, we can't even foresee some of the implications of this. And I heard an interesting interview. It was with Elon Musk. And he was just saying talking about the dangers of it and how humans, and specifically the humans that are developing the AI, they're super smart individuals, but at that level of intelligence, they have convinced themselves that they are smarter than the machines. And we're at a point now with technology where the machines are going to be able to, if not already, be far more intelligent than humans. And these individuals who are developing it, I don't know, in a lot of cases, maybe even at an abstract level, think that they are still smarter than the machines. And in my mind, that just seems like a really dangerous place to be potentially.
It's a great thought. What about you, Nomsa? Where do you stand on this? What's your
For me, basically, I think the machine it is smarter than human. Is very quick, smart. Because the machine, if you give the machine to read like a robot, it will read everything in 1 second and tell you what's going to happen, the answers. But what is the most exciting, that takes the fun out of it, is for us human beings. I just prefer our own thinking, our own superhuman smartness, the intelligence, because you have to think, use your thinking to create something. You get creative while you are thinking and processing everything. But if we say with the computers and everything, artificial intelligence, I think it is. I agree with Amanda Grant and what Nick has just said, that it takes the fun out of everything. We do need a human connection. And, it's like when I go to a supermarket, if everything is taken away from me, like I have to send a robot to do shopping for me, or I go to the supermarket, everything is service is robot, is basically, it takes the fun out of me, because when I go to the supermarket, I'm used to those people. It's like I'm having a chat. They're part of my family. And during lockdown, it was taken away from us. We couldn't see that. And then you have activities. When you take children to the activities, the people that are there, they are another family as well. And comes to thinking, creating business. If I have to ask a super intelligent the answers to give me the answers, that means us human, we're not gonna have you be able to use our mind to think. We're gonna be lazy. people will take advantage, like what Nick was saying, that people will start using it for bad. But I think human beings, basically, they're super intelligent in their own way. They're super intelligent because if you look at it, there's people like children who invent things like Microsoft. Bill Gates, they invented Microsoft when they were very young. And there are some children right now who are coming out doing the same thing. I think it's fun to see some people being role models to other children. And I think that's the part of it. Just reading, like if I read about Grant, he's written a book. For me, it brings the fun out of it. It brings the fun. It gives me joy to be creative. I want to know what Grant did different to be able to write a book. I want to know what Nick did different to be able to have his clothing line and start his own brand. I want to do that. Amanda, how did you manage to write 8 books? Then I'll ask emailing Amanda. Sometimes if she has time, she'll reply to me. Or sometimes if she doesn't have time, I want to hear from her. But that is the fun of human intelligence, is wondering what Grant is thinking. But if they are artificial intelligent, I could be easy, be lazy, and ask them questions to do the work for me. Over to you, Grant or Amanda.
Go ahead, Amanda.
I would just want to comment on what Nick said about that, like that worrisome piece of these super intelligent people, because I know as a teacher that I have brilliant kids in my class. Not all the time, like there's always a range of intelligence, and what do you view intelligence in, essentially, because intelligence, you could be super intelligent in math but then have no social skills. And those kids that are the ones that go on to be the high-tech engineers that are developing some of this stuff, so often they are the children who were super, super academic, but had zero social skills. And my entire focus with them, I didn't even worry about the academics with them. My focus with them is on, like, how do you interact with people? Because you don't have people skills, and people skills is something that needs to be taught. And we don't necessarily, it's not in the curriculum to teach it, because I don't know why it's not in the curriculum to teach it, but we need to be teaching this, because if you are going to develop technologies that essentially have huge impacts on people, you need to have people skills to understand how those technologies are going to affect them. Even like we didn't understand, well, we probably did. There has been research on isolation, like people are put in jail and in isolation and then that's like their punishment. And then that's what essentially the world did for 2 years. It was like, or not everywhere in the world, but in Canada, lots of it has happened for 2 years. And that essentially is a punishment that they would do in jails, was isolate people from other people. And that's what they did on a global scale without thinking, because they were worried about the pandemic. And essentially what we are seeing now is that's had a huge impact on people's mental health. And those things weren't considered because it was only one view being considered. And I really think that we need to, when we're looking at all these intelligences, the people who are developing them need to interact with psychologists. They need to interact with teachers. They need to interact and say, like, how can we make these technologies that we have the brains to build actually work for people? Because if you can't make them work for people, then they're essentially not useful. Right? And then too, like in the policing, like I always think of like Terminator and other movies like that, where I'm like, what happens if the robots like just took over and didn't have any empathy? Because I know last week Nick shared a story about arresting people but having empathy because they didn't necessarily agree with what was going on. And unless you understand where a person has been, like, you need to be able to have empathy for them and make decisions based on essentially empathy sometimes. Because even in my classroom, say there was a kid that swore at me, I'm not going to just send them to the office because they swore at me. I'm going to be like, whoa, what's going on with this kid that's caused them to swear at their teacher? And essentially figure out like what was the underlying thing. Did they just have a fight with their friend outside at recess? Because 90% of the time, if they yell at me, it has nothing to do with me. It has something to do with something else that's going on in their lives. So I think that's something that we really need to consider when we're looking at artificial intelligence, is that ability to step back and be like, whoa, what's really going on here? And I don't think robots have that ability. And I don't know if the people developing them have that ability, because what I've seen as a teacher is that those kids that are so intelligent in that one area, 99.9% of the time lack people skills. And that's really concerning to me.
That's a lovely point. That's a great point, isn't it? I don't know if you guys know the story of
I think someone left a comment. Do you guys want to read the comment?
I was going to make my point first and then maybe come to that, because it would tie in very, very nicely, actually, if we could.
Okay.
But what I thought was, years ago, well, not that many years ago, but I went to a supermarket, as we all did, and it was the first time ever that they said to me, and this is, I don't know, you probably don't know this story. They said, okay, would you like to scan your items yourself? First time they'd ever been asked this, right? And I said, how do you mean? And they said, would you like to scan the items yourself? I said, scan them? Why? They said, so you scan them and pay for them yourself. I'm like, why? Where are you going? Where are you going? I said, is this still closed? I said, no, but you could do it yourself. My honest answer was this. I said, oh, that's all right. I do it. You trust me to do that? I said, okay. What's the deal? They said, what do you mean? I said, what's the deal if I do that myself? What's the discount? I don't get it. Is that a new incentive? That's a good idea. There's no discount. You just do it yourself. And I said, why would I want to do that? That's what I'm paying you to do. Why would I? You don't hire a bricklayer and they say, well, there's the bricks, there's the cement, go do it yourself. That's what I hired you to do, isn't it? And I thought, it's crazy. Same in a bank, self-serve. We have a bank, you go there. I like to go to the bank rather than internet banking. I like to get out and interact with humans. It's a little bit of a break for me to do it. Queues are frustrating, but I think they manufacture queues. The lines, you may call it. Because you go there and they got someone with an iPad thing going up and down. Now, I had COVID last year, just recovered from COVID. Feel a bit groggy, recovered. Queued up in the bank, the queues were going out of the door. Right? And I was sitting there. You ever look at something and think, what is wrong with this picture? Standing there 40 minutes, just recovered from COVID, really not feeling good, but I had tested and I was clear and I quarantined and done all of that. And I was first day out at the bank, one person behind the counter, one person. The queue, the line going out the door, so embarrassed with the staff that they asked them to come in off the street and queue up like as a zigzag inside. And they're walking up and down with an iPad style thing, as they say, can I help anybody? Is there anything I can help you do? Because certain things they can do. But I've been watching this for months. In fact, about a year and a half. And actually, very few people they can help in the queue. Very, very few people. And I'm sitting there looking at a person, looking at the queue, looking at this person spending all that time being paid, going up. Can I help you? Is there something we can, what is it you want to do today? The queue's getting frustrated, explaining what they want to do, to say, no, I need to do something at the counter. They're telling the people, oh, okay, this person's production was virtually zero. And then I look at the counter and there's one person there. And I'm thinking, there's something wrong with this picture. Can I help anybody? I'm like, yeah, you could open that other counter. And I know you're qualified to do it because I've seen you do it. I mean, who is running this branch? What is going on here? For goodness sake, it's insane. These people need someone to help them. You run the survey, they told you what the answer is, and you're still standing there with this useless iPad style thing. It's not an iPad, it's a tablet. So and just using it, and it's unable to help about at least 90% of the other people queuing up couldn't be helped. And they had a number and it had like 702. It was a big number on the wall. And I think they were celebrating something. And I said, I've been standing here for 40 minutes wondering what 702 stands for. Now I know it's the amount of minutes those people have to wait in the queue to get served. Now, my point is, that was really crazy. Yeah, they had this system. It clearly isn't working. And I didn't see any sniff of a manager. If it was my branch, I would have looked and said, this isn't working. This isn't working. Back to the supermarket. So I'm in the supermarket, but there was the queue, and they're saying, oh, you can serve yourself. I'm like, but there's no discount for me doing it for you. I said, no, I don't want to do that. Why would I want to do it? I want to be here. You do it. It's crazy. And I said, who's asked you to do this? I said, the management. It's a good idea. And I just had one of those sort of expanded moments. I said, why? It's always going to save so much time. And I said, you haven't fallen for that, have you? I said, where do you think this is going to end up? I said, what about the jobs? I mean, okay, some people there are studying to go to university, etc., and things. But some people there haven't got a lot of other options. Where are they going to go? Oh, they find work for us to go in the warehouse. But there's people in the warehouse already working. There'll be less tills, less check-in desks in the future. No, there won't. Well, of course, there are. Significantly less. There's just a couple. There's a big supermarket. There's just a couple left now. And it's gone well, and there's less staff. And I'm like, so where are those guys working now? Now, there is a counter side to this argument, I think. And somebody has written in the chat about it. And I think Nom said, yeah, it'd be great if you read that, because I think it's a really great point they've made. And then I'd like to come back with something that I'm involved with, which actually supports the other side of it as well. So, Nomsa, what did our friend write in the chat?
Can you read the chat, or you can't?
Okay, if you want me to read it, I will.
Yeah, you can read it. Even
All right.
when you're speaking or someone types in, you can read the chat. It's fine.
All right, I just thought get a dynamic, get you doing it. But okay, I agree to Nomsa. Humans are intelligent. This is a FEES says this. Humans are intelligent. We instill the knowledge on AI. Absolutely, we do. As I say, it's always made. AI is designed and developed by humans. My point would be that we categorize departments or areas where we think AI will be more effective. I would say on farms, for example. Absolutely. And I think with that point, I had some clients years ago who were farms, a couple of clients who were in farms, coincidentally, and long-term farms that have been passed down from generation to generation. And this farmer now is probably in his 70s, used to farming. You realize they like farming. They like getting up. They like doing it. They like the manual work. They like the interaction. Now, he works effectively, his farm belongs to a supermarket. They came in. They said, we'd like to farm your land. They come in. They use projectors and lasers to actually measure the farm, the geographics of it. And they took down the hedges. They flattened certain bits of soil, replanted it. And they come in each month. The tractors go in. The farmer does nothing. He just gets money in his account each month. He earns more money now for doing nothing than he did all those years working. They farm it more efficiently. I know there's going to be talk about crops and soil when I get all that, and there's always a counter argument. Two farmers told me the same story. So when I went to the second one, I said, do you farm this yourself? No, a supermarket. I said, bet you earn more money by that. He said, yeah, how do you know? I said, because I have another client who's a farmer who told me the same story. And it is. And I'm also involved with a telemedicine company. So if anybody doesn't know what that is, it's an app. It is an AI app. So think of remote parts of the world where you can't necessarily get a flying doctor to quickly. You can't get them in. You can use this app. Okay. How'd you get the internet? I hear you say. I get it. Sometimes they can get internet, but it's still very remote. And that was my first question. And people could use it. You can get it here. It happened a lot during COVID. You had, what was it called? Hotel medicine or something. I think it was called in India, something like this, where people were there using similar apps. And I'm involved with a telemedicine app where you look at it, you video yourself, you will talk about your symptoms, it will get uploaded to the cloud, it will get reviewed by a doctor. It would either come back to telling you what to do, or it will say, yes, you do need to make an appointment to see a physical doctor. It cuts down queues enormously. There was a huge pushback from doctors who said, you can't beat the human element with a doctor looking at it. Get that. And of course, artificial intelligence is learning. It learns, it develops, it gets better. And now it has got better. And they were saying a few years ago, it was almost as good as a doctor, almost as good. I believe now it is apparently as reliable, if not more reliable. And that is only the beginning. There is an app out, and I was discussing to a friend of mine who's a lawyer, there's an app for law. Apparently it makes less mistakes than lawyers. What are we going to do with this? Where's it going to go? Now, for medicine, I mean, I would say depends on what it is you're treating. If it's a low-level thing, sure, cuts down the queues. Doctors are swamped. Is it taking money away from doctors? No, it isn't. No, it isn't. If they incorporate it, they can earn money from that as well. So it's not taking money away from them. I would say it's probably about the intelligent use of artificial intelligence. How do you use it wisely? Everything can be used well, everything can be used badly. And that's a debate which I'm sure is going to go on for a long time. But I wanted to bring a little bit of balance to the debate there and say that. And I think it can be used. And I know people who have used it, the medical app, to great effect, great effect, many people. And it can bring relief to people in areas where there just simply aren't doctors, where they can get some quick advice like, hey, that's not a problem, or actually, yeah, you do need to get to a hospital. That could save lives. For that, I think it's a great use of it. What do you think, guys? Are you aware of this? Have you got any take on it? I mean, is it something you say, I've heard about that, but I don't think it is what it's meant to be? What are your thoughts?
I think Nick can answer that. He's a farm boy.
So yeah, I'm very much not a farmer. I'm living on a farm, but I am not the farmer. So
He's living on a farm.
Currently we're living in rural Alberta in the middle of the prairies on my wife's family farm. And so my father-in-law is just in the process of retiring. And so just to look back at his life in farming. So when he started, it was, I mean, obviously tractors and technology that way was definitely coming out. But the equipment has just gotten so huge over here in order to basically make the economy of it and make it make sense financially for them. The equipment's just gotten bigger and bigger, and then the technology that's been incorporated with GPS, like Grant you were talking about, and how they're maximizing the land that is here. And so I can't speak too in depth on the AI side of it, because my father-in-law wasn't involved in the heavy technology side. So his was limited to just the GPS for the planting and whatnot. But again, and Grant hit the nail on the head, I think, with how it can help the farmer, the landowner, to maximize his profit. But what about his hired man or the other people that aren't landowners that wouldn't be able to profit from that, and it would be potentially taking jobs away from them. So it's kind of it's a double-edged sword, I think, no matter what topic you talk about. So Afeez said, different in different areas, basically you'd have to decide whether AI made sense or not. And I mean, people in each of those groups, there'll be people on either side of it, no matter what area it is. And but I think that's important to have that human element and consider it at least. And then I just have one more point, and it's basically that, so AI is incredible at doing the monotonous things, the dirty jobs, the things that humans don't want to do. My question would be, so people don't want to do those jobs, but how many people actually want to do their job, but we just do it because we have to, because we need to earn an income. And then what happens to those people in those jobs where nobody wants to do them, but of course somebody does in order to make a living? Then what happens to those people, I guess, would be my question.
That's exactly
Yeah,
it.
I agree with Nick. Basically, that things have changed. Like I grew up in the farm as well. I love farming, and things have really changed. The technology has changed. With the artificial intelligence, whether is it gonna take jobs away? I'm sure there is a positivity out of all this that is gonna come out. I think it's up to us how we respond to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it will be up to us how we respond to the situation. Like you were saying before, Nick, that some people might decide to use it in a bad way, but I think like Amanda was saying that at school, the children are getting creative. They still need to keep that up and being creative. Like my daughter, she is super intelligent, but at the same time, as a mother, I. I've taught her from a very young age that she's not obsessed with the studying. She knows that she studies and then she has to go out and spend time with her friends. So I have to make sure I've trained her to make sure that she goes out and spend time with her friends, and then she comes home. Basically, we eat. When we are watching TV, she's not watching TV, she's studying, but during the day she will study and then she'll go out and see her friends. I think that is very important for children to um I think mostly it's parents. We get obsessed with the achievement, like we focus on the achievement, but if we make it fun for the kids, then they end up having social life. But if we are all about you have to be this, you have to be this. Children know exactly what they need to be, what they don't want to be. So as a parent, our job is to be basically motivate them. Like here at Ngozi Talk Shows, we are motivating each other. We're different coaches, going different paths, but we also we know what we want and we motivate each other. It's the same thing with the children, but you find like at school, you find that there are some children, basically 99% is not good enough to them, to their parents. Basically, they get scared that if I take 99% at home, I'm going basically to get in trouble. My daughter I think she got 78, or it was 80%. It was her lowest score. Then she got upset. And when I went for parents' evening, so her teacher didn't say anything. She just made sure that she was comfortable being upset. She was okay. And then when we went for parents' evening, then the teacher mentioned that she wanted to see our reaction as parents. She didn't want to say something, maybe our beliefs is different, that we didn't believe that she should get those percent. She should be 100% child. So I said to her, I just looked at her when her teacher mentioned it. I said to her, tell me in front of your teacher, what are the values and beliefs at home? And she was like, you do your best and that's it. You do what you can and that's it. You cannot cry. You cannot do anything. So her teacher said, I'm glad that your mom believes the way basically her beliefs are the same way that I believe in, because you were upset. So I had to explain that 80% is okay. And she was fine after, but her behavior, it was because there were some other kids that believed that 99% is not good enough. Their parents will go mad if they get 99%. So that's what Amanda was saying, that children who are super intelligent, they end up not having social life. But for me, with my daughter, I make sure that she has a social life, because it does affect a child. She needs to enjoy the process of studying. When she goes to uni, if she decides she doesn't want to go to uni, she needs to look back and say, this is beautiful. My life has been beautiful. So I'm not sure whether, I think how we respond with this with the technology, it will be up to us, the human beings, how we respond to it. And also, I love to be with somebody who's smarter than me. If this super technology is smarter than me, I love to have fun with it, to be more smarter, to be super smarter than this technology. But will I be able to do that? I don't think I can, because the technology, the robot can read the computer, the whole computer, within 5 seconds and tell you what's going to happen in another planet. So I don't think I can do that. But I think it's good for us. What is it saying?
Shall I read it, Nomsa?
Yes.
Yeah, a friend is back again, and she says, I've seen AI that helps with irrigation processes. The AI determines the volume of water needed for each plant and supply at that time. Output was great, and farmers were happy about it. It's in a situation where AI needs to teach humans. I don't think AI will be effective. Thanks for setting up the conversation. Would love to be part of this moving forward. And I think that's a great point. A story last week, I spoke to a colleague and talking about basically when you talk about email marketing, etc., lists of people, they have an absolutely enormous list of people. And one of the best AI systems in the world, which will go through it, and the system learns. It learns about people. And the person said, I said, my God, that's like a new world order. He said, it's creepy as hell. And it's amazing. And how it can cut down marketing costs by around about 90%. It's going to change. It's said that I don't know if it's true, that in 15 years, 50% of jobs as we know them will not exist. So they said years ago, every 10 years, you'll have to be prepared to go into a new industry. Well, that looks like that might change a lot more. What's going to happen to those people? Back to my idea about the supermarket. Yes, that wasn't AI, that was automation. But automation leads to AI. And that's just when I said that, and nobody else could see it. And I got that downloaded within a few seconds, what was going on. And it's what's happened. And there's less people. As I say, some of those people are not the most skilled workers. Where else can they be? Unless you are now a specialist, what will you be? And it is the intelligent use of. And when I look back over the years, the problem is we don't use these things intelligently. Some of my friends are involved with AI, and they are the people who are teaching AI. And they are very good, and it can be used for amazing purposes, just like what a freezer said there with irrigation. Absolutely, totally and utterly agree. With telemedicine, with various things, it can be good. But at what price is it good? There is always a benefit. There is always a cost. What is the cost going to be, and how will we handle that cost? I don't think that with the introduction of AI, we have used artificial intelligence intelligently. And I don't think we thought about it intelligently enough. I'm sure there's lots of things we haven't thought about, and people will come back with some really good answers of how it can be used and how it should be. But who's policing it? That's my question. Who's policing this? Who's making sure that that's as far as we go? There's the guidelines. When does a guideline become a law? It is now uncharted waters. Talk about when you started getting online businesses, a lot of ideas and organizations couldn't understand it. It was a new concept. There wasn't a model to adopt it. Things had to change to understand it. International trading laws and things like this had to adapt because there was no template before for which that fitted. I think this is going to be the same. It could be absolutely phenomenal if used correctly. My big concern is that we won't. And that's it. But certainly in terms of irrigation, in medical, even in marketing, it can be used well. But it learns, you see, in much the same way. Think of an analogy. You go onto online shopping, let's just say an online shopping place, you buy something, and at the end of it, it will say, hey, if you like that, you're probably going to like this. A colleague of mine years ago used to talk about uh, when you look into certain shops, you look into the windows, you look at certain things in the window. Once you walk in, there's screens in the shop, and they change, and everything on that screen seems to be something you like. Why is that? It's been looking at your retina, been looking at your eyeballs. It's been timing how long you've looked at things in the window. It's taken a snapshot of the things that you're interested in. It goes through its database. The moment you walk in, it recognizes you on camera and puts those kinds of things on screen. When we buy online, hey, Nick, Nomso, Amanda, if you like that, you'll probably like this. Other people who brought this also brought that. They're not bad choices many of the time. They're quite useful. They're understanding it. The machine is learning. It's machine learning. It's learning how you think. It can be used in therapy. Could be used in what we do. They understand if that client says this, perhaps ask that. It can even remember things and like things that you like. Hey, did you get your hair done? You said you were going to get your hair done. That's nice. I've looked at it. It seems to suit your face shape better this way. It knows that. Some human beings don't have the ability to do that. Some people just can't. I was talking to someone the other day who was learning profiling of humans. They had no sense of fashion. They just said growing up, they knew nothing about it. They can't tell what is a designer suit, what isn't, what fabric. They have no sensibility about that, this person. They admitted it. They can't read that stuff. A machine could learn that.
So could a human though, and then you could just go shopping with them.
You absolutely.
There were some teachers that I'd be like, I just want to take them to the mall and buy them all new clothes.
Yeah, right.
Amanda,
Well, it's like cars, isn't it? Electric cars. I mean, I know they catch fire and all that stuff. I don't think electric cars are quite where they need to be just yet, but a great idea maybe going forward. But anyway, what's going to happen to the petrol cars? They're going to become the supercars. I think they're going to be the boys' toys of the future. Yeah, I'm going to go out and burn some petrol. It's going to be, the old cars where you fill them up, you can smell all the fuel and stuff, that kind of thing. And they will be those cars, and you'll probably pay a premium to do so. Well, I'm sure. I mean, you do now in many cases, but you'll pay a super premium for having those gas guzzling cars. They will become the unusual thing, the premium thing, I'm sure, as it goes forward. And again, the whole electric car thing. Yes, there are certain questions around them, obviously, but I'm sure a great idea and going forward, once some creases are ironed out, would be a fantastic thing. I know a lot of people swear by them now. Personally, I don't. Not at the moment. As I say, I don't think they're quite where they need to be at the moment. But a great idea going forward. But AI, is it good?
The comment in the chat about AI teaching humans and being used in
Amanda,
farm.
do you want to ask what Affairs mean by saying he wants to get involved or he wants to have a conversation with us? The questions you need to ask him, because I think he said he would like to get involved.
I think
So
he
would you
probably
like to ask him?
to contact you to chat with you about maybe coming on the show. I don't know.
Just message us. Just message us.
His comments were making me think of this book that I read with kids, and I think this book would be essential when talking about AI with kids, because there's two books actually. One's called The Wild Robot, and essentially, this shipment of robots gets in a storm and the ship gets destroyed, but this one robot ends up on this island and actually functions and starts working, and then it ends up becoming part of the natural community on this deserted island. And then it's like society in the future, where the society in the future then finds out that the robot actually exists, and they go in and they get it. And then the second book is The Wild Robot Escapes, and the robot essentially learned how to raise this duckling. And so the robot goes back to the factory. They realize that it's malfunctioned, but really essentially the robot has learned empathy and learned essentially like all of these human traits of like taking care of others, and it doesn't listen to its programming anymore because it's helping. And so this robot then essentially goes back to the factory, gets reset, and then it gets shipped to a farm, and on the farm it does all of those things to help the farmer, but then it still remembers being back in the and it becomes friends with the kids, and then the kids help the robot escape to get back to its duckling. That but essentially the duck has become like a full grown bird. But it's such an interesting thought process, and it's such an interesting book on really thinking about all of this stuff, and where are we going to be in the future. And it's a fictional story, but it would be such a good book for all teachers to read with kids, or parents to read with kids, to really get them thinking about like, where do we want AI to go? Because the other robots aren't something that I would want. It like the other robots in the book aren't something that I would want in my life. I would only want the one wild robot in my life, essentially, because the rest of it was like, whoa, this is scary. Like, this is not what I would want to see happening in society. And so I really think we need to think about that, and like that human connection is so important. And the reason that you empathize with the wild robot is because it has all those human connection qualities. And so I really think that we need to consider that as we move forward, because I know we're seeing a huge increase in mental health problems, and those farmers, like you were talking about, Grant, and like, well, what do they do now?
Nothing.
Because
Nothing.
so much of the value we feel in ourselves is our ability to get up and do meaningful work. And if they're just sitting around doing nothing, what's happening to their mental health? They may be making
Amanda,
a ton of money, but like, at what cost? Because
Amanda, I can tell you, I mean, I'm not a farmer. I'm not interested in farmer. The idea to me sounded like paradise. It's great. Yeah, you get
You
this
guys
slap of
want to
land.
give me a chance to comment?
Sorry?
Do you guys want to give Nick a chance to comment?
Yeah. Did you want to say something?
You guys go ahead. I'll jump in here when the
No,
time's
you
right.
go ahead. I've forgotten what I was going to say. Sorry, something I was going to comment on what Amanda said, but I've gone. Go ahead, Nick.
You know what? I don't remember what you were saying either.
Amanda was talking about the farm.
about what costs, because I know for a fact that when my dad retired from working when I was like 25 and he was like 55, and then he just did nothing, and I was like, this is the worst. Like, you wanted to retire, like, you need something to do, otherwise you're going to go insane. And like, essentially, that's like, unless you have something to do that's meaningful, then you have no reason to get up in the morning. So what is your why are you getting up? What is your purpose? And if you're taking that purpose away, like if those farmers are maybe traveling the world and experience the world because now they don't have to work, great, they have a reason to get up in the morning. But if you take that reason for them to get up in the morning away, and that ability to work with their hands, I know for me, I have a garden just because I love to garden. And I love working in the dirt, and I love like that hands-on piece of it. But if you took that away because a robot could do it for me, I'd be like, no. Like, part of my weekend mental health piece is just like being in my garden and just like being like, oh. And if we take that away and replace it with AI, I don't necessarily think that's a good thing in all areas anyways. Maybe in like mass farming, yes, but in my garden, in my backyard, I just want to play in it on the weekends.
Yeah, I just keep thinking about, I mean, all of these implications. Like, I mean, every topic we've talked about today, you've kind of come up and I've thought, oh, wow, there is definitely two sides to each of these stories. And I just keep going to that we as humans, if the AI got to a point, which there's no doubt it would, where it could manipulate us, like that's just, it could be so dangerous, because I mean, we are connection-based life forms, and we need that in order to thrive and survive, and we need to have purpose in our lives. And I mean, AI could just come in and manipulate us into, I can't even I can't even wrap my head around all of the potential implications.
No.
But they're very numerous, right? And I just have a lot of reluctance to going all in. And then I'll just have one more point here. And Grant, you were talking about the regulations and whatnot, and it needs to be some oversight and whatnot. And I just think AI is developing so quickly and exponentially at this point that the regulations, it's going to take years and years, possibly decades, to get regulations into place. And by the time that's happened, where is AI going to even be? And it's, I just, again, I keep going back to just my reluctance to just jump in blindly, because of, we just don't know what the implications are, and that lack of empathy, that lack of compassion that machines, they just don't have, that humans do. And that, I think, is what makes us human. I have a lot of reservations with it.
I think that, yeah, there's all great points, and I'm not for it. I'm not against it. It comes back to my original question: is how the quality of our thinking now defines the quality of our outcome in the future, without a doubt. And it is up to everybody. Now, even the book you mentioned, Amanda, I'm going to be honest, it sent shivers down my spine with what you said, because I'm not going to go into it too much here, but I kind of wonder who wrote that book, the company behind it, and who owns the company.
The book, The Wild Robot?
What's that?
The book, The Wild Robot. It is such a good book. It's such a good book.
Oh, I'm sure it's a good book.
And there's two, I think there might even be 3 of them now, but when I taught grade 3, it was like one of my favorite books to read with the kids, because then there were so many different implications that we could connect with, like empathy and like your own life. And would you like a robot? And would you like a robot like these ones, or would you only like the wild robot? And different things. There's just so many implications to it, that I really think is like a thought process, right? And it's really something that we really need to think about more deeply. And I don't think we always do think about it deeply, because like I went to university, I have a master's in education technology, and I finished it in 2014, and everything that I learned like that is already obsolete. Like in like the actual class, like they're constantly learning all the time, and so I've constantly kept up with it. But if I only stopped learning when I finished my master's degree, all of what I learned would have been obsolete. Like I have to continuously be learning to be able to keep up with everything that's changing so rapidly. And it's just mind-blowing that we really need to, like Nick said, like the policies are going to take years to catch up, and once something's already released, it's already obsolete. Like this is the part that's like, it's almost scary that we need to almost like take a step back, and there's movements, like grassroots movements of getting back to nature and making your own farms and growing your own food, because people are deeply concerned about the implications of AI and where society is going, and they're realizing that their mental health is being hugely affected by this huge push for technology in society, and they're realizing, oh, I need to get back to nature, and I need to get back to like being with the land and working with the land and working in the dirt and getting my hands dirty.
Well, you know, Amanda, just jumping in there about what you said about the farmers you asked, and that's what I was trying to say earlier, I remember now, about those farmers. Well, I can tell you the answer right now. Those farmers were lost. They were completely soulless. As I said, I'm not into farming. I'm not a farmer. I've got my other business activities. To me, if I had a slab of land and a supermarket wanted to come in and farm that land and give me money for doing nothing, for me, that would sound like paradise. I'm not a farmer. I haven't got soil in my hands. Those farmers did. As I said at the beginning, generations and generations of farming were in their family. They were in their 70s and still liked working 8, 10, 12 hours a day farming. They liked it. That suddenly stopped. They had no purpose in life. Now, the counter argument is they wasn't forced by law to hand their farm over to the supermarket. They could have said no. So they had choice. They chose not to. And it was kind of good, but they look, how can I explain? They look puzzled. They look lost. They look puzzled, and they look purposeless. That can have an effect on a lot of people. But for me, it's not my purpose in life to farm. So if I had a slab of land, I'd like, fantastic, go do it. It'd be great for me because I'm busy doing other things. For them, they weren't busy doing other things. It's their chosen career. It was in their bloodline, and they loved it. And they absolutely looked completely lost. And it was very sad.
It would be essentially like somebody coming in and saying, I'll run your business for you. I'll just give you the money and I'll run your business, and you have nothing to do with your business anymore.
Yeah, and that works for some people. And that's normally a change management process, because you'll get what it's called about, it's a whole thing I was involved with years ago, which was retiring businesses. And quite often, let's keep it really simple. You've got a business, you built it up, you want to retire. Rather than putting the padlock on the door, making everyone redundant, you get someone else in to manage it. As it's your business, you either sell the business or you stay on as a consultant for, a year or so, teaching them the little bits and taking the phone calls and doing that. Or you let them have, 70% of the business, and you just take that retirement for doing absolutely zero. Or perhaps you stay on as a consultant for a year and then you do zero, but you still get that 30%. Right? That happens all the time. And a lot of people don't do that. Why? Because it's their mind, it's their heart. They don't want someone else touching their baby. It all depends. And this is as a business coach where I come in and I help people to set up businesses, starting with the end in mind. Every time someone says to me, hey, Grant, I'm going to make a workshop, I'm going to do a webinar, I'm going to do a show like this. What do you think? What should be in it? My first question is, what is your desired outcome from it? All depends what you want it to lead to. That makes a whole difference. If people want to have a life purpose, they want to have a side hustle, perhaps their kids have grown up and gone to university and they want to put their soul into a business, that's completely different to a business that you want to set up, build up, fatten the goose and sell it in 5 years and retire. That's a completely different model. So it all depends, as I said, on the quality of the questions you ask yourself at the beginning determines the results at the end. And I think that's the same with AI as it is with a business, as everything. Depends on what you want. I've just been asked to go into another business, which is not a passion of mine at all, but it could be very lucrative. So what's my thought? Will it take me off my compass heading of where I'm going, my mission, my vision in life? If it does, then I'm not going to do that other business at all. I don't care how much money, I'm not doing it. If it takes 2 or 3 hours a week, yeah, I can do that. And if it funded something else, so it's all begin with the end in mind, I would say. What's it get? It's an ethical business, it's moral, it's legal, it's ethical. So it's okay, it ticks those boxes for me. That's my non-negotiables, if you will. So it's that, but then you've got to look at the other aspects, because life is about fulfilling. For me, it's about freedom and fulfilling your soul and realizing the life's purpose. And if it violates that, I personally wouldn't do it. But it doesn't violate it. It's just a question of those 168 hours you've got in a week, non-negotiable. How much of that is it going to take? And that's and what's the benefit of it? So that's the way we look at it.
I think we're going to stop here for today, guys. We can do part 2 if Afid wants to join us. I will message him, or Amanda will message him and find out what he wants to do. And Nick, do you have any words of encouragement before we leave?
Just say, Grant, I love what you just said about the passion involved in business, and how you wouldn't do a business that, you weren't passionate about if it took you off of your course. And I absolutely love that. And while you were talking, I was just thinking, I'm like, would a machine be able to have that level of awareness?
Good point. And the answer is, in the future, yes. We could dramatically, with AI, we could dramatically cut down the marketing costs. Yes, there'll be a high cost to hiring that information. But yes, it was dramatically cut down marketing costs. Could it contact the clients? Well, from emails, absolutely. Could it have the right language? Almost 100%. Way better than a human. Way better than a human. Yeah.
Yeah.
Would it help more people in the world? Depends.
Yeah.
Could be. Depends where your morals, your ethics, and your values lie. And I think that's the future of business. And this is what I take people through: is the morals, the values, the ethics, the end purpose. It's got to be aligned. And this is very much where I'm looking now with my time, is where I can allocate my time and where I shouldn't. It's where you best use your time. And I think if companies base themselves along those criteria, then they can embrace these things for the power of good. If they don't, it could end up pretty messy. And I think my final thoughts would be, ask yourself quality questions today, because you may not get a chance to ask them tomorrow.
And I would just say, for the AI technologies, if we were able to incorporate what you just said, morals, ethics, and values, into the AI, then I think that would change my opinion on it.
Yeah.
How about you, Amanda? Any words of encouragement before we leave?
Yeah, I really think that whatever we do with AI, we really need to come back to how is it going to help us fulfill like a meaningful life for ourselves, because we've seen such a huge increase in mental health disorders and in anxiety, and especially in children. And so if we don't have that empathy piece and that compassion piece, and AI isn't able to do that piece, then we really need to have more humans who can focus on those pieces. Because as human beings, we're vibrating this energy of, and what we give out comes back to us. And so we really need to show that with what we're giving out with AI, we can bring back in a different way. So for me, if I could make millions of dollars from my land, if I was a former farmer, I would spend all of my time then focusing on writing books and focusing on doing things like this, and focusing on going to schools and helping empower kids. So like having that stream of income as a source of income wouldn't take me off of my focus, because my focus would still be helping people. But with a farmer, their main focus was to farm, and if you take that away from them, then what? Then they need to find a new purpose. And so I really think is with AI is like, what is the purpose of it? How is that going to affect the human purpose? Like, what is our purpose here as humans? Because I think that's so much of what we're all searching for. It's like, why am I here, and what is my purpose, and how can I live this human experience to the fullest? And that's kind of what I want to leave you with, is like, whatever happens with AI, I still come back to that question of, how can I live my human purpose as my fullest, and have the full human experience while I'm here.
Thank you so much, Grant. Thank you so much, Nick, and thank you so much, Amanda, and thank you so much, Hafez. Please, if you want to join us to have this conversation, we'll message you, or you can message me on LinkedIn, and let's talk about what do you mean by wanting to get involved, or you want us to have a part 2. I can see Grant is really loving this subject, so maybe it might be a good idea to have part 2. So we can go deep in it. So guys, let me know. And for me, basically, I will leave you with these guys. Artificial intelligence cannot change who we are, and how we respond to whatever the decision that will be made. It will be up to us. So we still have to keep our human super intelligent. So that's what I leave you guys with, that it doesn't have to change anything. We can still get creative. We can still be who we want to be. And We are here at Ngozi Talk Shows. YouTube subscribers, please subscribe to our channel. We love you and God bless you, and live with grace. And if you want to get in touch, anyone who is watching this, if you want to get in touch with Amanda or Grant or Nick, please do. You can contact them direct, or you can contact them through Ngozi Talk Show page, or you can if you can't get a hold of him, please get in touch with me. I'll connect you with these guys and some of our coaches that are not here. And Ngozi Talk Shows will help you find your own voice. Lead from within. You become the person you want to be, not expected to be. So, bye, everyone.